Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. I'm just home eating my Wawas. Gotta love Wawas, right? Because I ain't got not a drop of groceries in here, and I need to go grocery shopping. But um, been a little MIA, but for good reason. I have moved. And of course, wrapping up the end of this, my job, and so I'm excited about this move. And there are some things that I do want to highlight when it talks about moving, right? So sorry, I have probably a little bit of pet hair on me. No thanks to my taco. My taco, he gets nervous, and so yeah, disregard. Listen, I moved yesterday, okay? So there's stuff everywhere. But my taco, when he's nervous, he sheds real bad. So as he's scooting back, and he won't eat either. So just trying to watch him, make sure he's not fasting. So, but I want to talk about like just new beginnings and when you are ready to do something new and try something new. And the other aspect, and I talked about it in another video, so I'm going to talk about it again, is that, just feeling like that a change has to happen and, just kind of moving forward. So this move is super important to me. I have a little bit of confession to make. So it's super important to me because the last few moves, they've been tied to a man, right? I'm not saying that I didn't have the job lined up. I had the job lined up, but they have been tied to a man. And the reason why this move was so exciting was because this is the first time like being super single, not talking to anybody, not in a relationship, no potential relationship. It was just me deciding that I'm ready to do something different. And I've definitely see different social media posts where some young ladies now, they are packing stuff up and just up and just moving, whether it be across the state or across the nation. It's so exciting because I did that. You know what I'm saying? I just picked up and left the state. And I was not pressed about what anybody else had to say about it. I wasn't pressed at 23, still not pressed at the age I'm at now. And so, but if I was to be your big sister and offer up any kind of advice with any kind of move, the first advice is that I would give is that do not, unless that is your husband, okay? I get fiance. Let's hope that if it is a fiance, y'all get married next week. But 100%, if it's for a husband, do not move for any man less than, okay? And I know that some people are different in different situations and XYZ, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you from experience, reconsider, okay? If you are moving and it's tied to a guy, reconsider, especially if that's not your fiance at the very least, or especially if it's not your husband. Just reconsider. Because plans change, things change, obviously. And so, you just don't want to depend on that. And kind of caveat into that, you want to make sure you have your own stuff. Like, the man is only going to get you but so far. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how connected your man is, how nice your man thinks he is, and all sort of stuff. And yeah, this might be coming from a place of some burned experiences. But for what I know is that you need to have your own situation. You need to have your own motion. My grandmother used to say, God bless a child that has their own, right? And I just grew up, I never really understood that, probably in my teens, but probably in my mid to late 20s, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I understood now. And now that I am past 35, I definitely 100% am a big advocate rather of having your own stuff. Even if it's a situation where you're going with a man and you're still not sure, no. An unsure situation or an unanswered question is still a no. Try to have your own motion. That would be the sure thing advice. Next thing that I would give advice wise, if you plan on ever relocating and you decided you transition, you're done. Um, just be patient. You know what I'm saying? It might not be what you are expecting in the first probably 48 hours, first week, but give it some time. Be patient, right? You might get out here. I will tell you that the location that I'm at in Kentucky, it's no surprise that some of the cats out here are not warm. And the reason I feel that way is because I think Kentucky's Midwest. I don't think Kentucky is Southern at all. Um, and I and I know some people are probably gonna roast me to death for it, but that's just my perception. And because I have gone to places in Midwest and used to people not being so warm, they're very direct. And I feel like Kentucky does not have, I mean, you might have a few in the backwoods that are very friendly. Well, no, I'm lying. None of them in the backwoods are very friendly. They're very protective. And so that is kind of my reasoning why I think Kentucky is not a southern state. Um, it's just smack in the middle of the country, which is mostly Midwest. But anyway, that's my opinion about that. Um, but be patient, wait it out. Um, just do your research, hop on social media, hop on TikTok, hop into Facebook groups. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know what's popping there. I look at Reddit. Reddit has a lot of information. I do Google reviews, YouTube. Do your research. Lemonade, all those things. Do your research. Just don't say I don't know what's going on or I can't do this, and if you ain't done your research. And then I think to caveat in that, to try to figure out what's going on, join and go to your local gym, because most cases, your gym has a lot of people in there, a lot of people who might be connected in different ways. Definitely a gym or fitness center is a big community based thing. And it helps you be social. So definitely don't hide yourself. It's a good opportunity for you to just join a gym. Don't wait till July, or not July, but don't wait until January 1 to be like, oh, I'm gonna join a gym. Join now. Or if you have a gym membership, go in there and you'll see all the different people that you will meet. Like, you'll be very surprised. The next thing that I would definitely think about in relocation is definitely be mindful of your budget. All right. Because, different locations might call for different things. So the location I'm at not requires, excuse me. I don't want to make it seem like it's a must, because it really isn't. But I made a decision to buy a toll pass. And me buying the toll pass was probably a very good idea. And so, but that's a new thing in my budget. So it's just things like that you just definitely want to think about, in terms of just kind of relocating, figure out where you might need to, either tighten up in your budget or loosen up in your budget. So yeah, so that's just transitioning. And on to transitions. I decided back in September, October, that the move was necessary, and just talking to God in my alone time, I felt compelled, or I felt good enough to say that I've kind of, on a little bit of a manageable, I don't want to say smoother side, but on a manageable side of grief. Losing my mother and my grandmother was very, very hard. And I know people will tell me, oh, well, you hide it well, or you manage it well. There have been days where I have come home and done nothing but cried. And it's not only because of me missing them, but they were, to me, the decision makers. They were the ones that knew everything. They were, Dale Earnhardt Jr. had said this best about losing his dad. And I totally agree. But, he said that his dad was like having the cheat code in life. Having my mother and my grandmother around was literally the cheat code in life. And, just coming home and crying. So with that being said, not only coming home crying because I missed them, but coming home and crying because I had no answer. I could not, I mean, of course, talking to God, super important. And the interesting thing is that God definitely comes through with all his promises and his prayers. And so you can't convince me of otherwise, but that's a whole nother conversation for a different day. But just coming home and just not being able to call my mom when I'm presented with a problem and I don't know how to pivot, or calling my grandmother and trying to get, like any type of, health related question answer or anything else of that nature answer. I would just come home and cry because it felt like that, anything that my brother needed or anything else that anybody needed, like I had no resolve. Like I had no individual physically here on earth that I could talk to that I can trust. And, I'm always mindful of my friends. I don't want to burden them and over ask them a million questions. And, it to the point it even got into a situation where I tried to date a little bit and try to really, lean on and rub on support with that. And that didn't work. And it's not that I have high expectations, but I think everybody deserves at least one person that God sent just to, be a shoulder, and like my mom and my grandmother were my shoulder. And so in talking to God and knowing that he who is promised is faithful, I knew that it was time for a transition. It had been 5 years since losing my mother and my grandmother. Both of my brothers have lived with me for a period of time just to get them back on their feet because, our finances were all intertwined together. And just really just making sure that my brothers knew that, as a foundational support, that I got their back. And it came and saying that, it came with a lot of challenges, came with a lot of just emotional challenges. Of course, they're dating, right? And so, of course, you want to be careful of that thin line between making sure you're not disrespectful to any of their significant others, and to which I always made sure that, I always wanted to respect them. I just knew that was mandatory. But just making sure that respect was the main thing. And of course, you want to make sure that they're respecting you. The financial aspect of it was hard because, of course, if they don't have and they have no resources or they're resourced out, you're the next resource. And no, it's not something that I had to do, right? But I just knew that as their maternal guide or their only maternal connection, I knew that that was the position that I had took on, and that I accepted. So, I could never complain about being a family matriarch when I assumed that role and, didn't really set a lot of boundaries behind it. But in that, back in probably about 7 months ago, I said, no, this is a boundary I have to set. And the boundary is that it is time for us to do our own thing. It's time for us to all maintain separate residences, and, still be a family, but do it in a way that allows all of us to grow, right? And, and my siblings, they're wonderful. Both of my brothers are absolutely amazing men, absolutely amazing men. And I want to respect their growth that they want to take. Now, maybe in the distant future, maybe one of us will buy a house with a lot of land and we just want to build houses on it. And I'm cool with that too. I absolutely love my brothers. But I just knew at that time that God was calling for something greater in me. Now, you get used to living with people for a while. It's scary initially, you know what I'm saying? Going back to living on your own, because you don't know what to expect and you don't know how to pivot. Now, this is my first time living alone with animals. And so, you don't know really how to, you don't know, but you really have to talk to God and figure out how you're going to pivot in this new space. And I know that God is faithful because, again, he who is promised is faithful. And I think, if you are a young woman, and again, big sister advice, and you are trying to transition, or you don't know where to pivot or where to go, the best thing that you can do for yourself, and this is going to come off real harsh, and I know that buzzwords, but I'm not a huge fan of buzzwords, but it's the truth when I say this. You need to decenter your family. And that's not in a way that says that you need to cut them off. I'm not saying that, but your priority should always be you, right? And you should, and we're talking like here on earth. God is always the Godhead, no matter what. But on earth side, you need to prioritize yourself, because even then, sometimes your family can become a distraction and God can't work with you and through you because family is in the way. So you need to decenter your family. And that might mean moving out on your own. That might mean moving in with a roommate. That might mean leaving the city or the state. Whatever it is that you need to do just that. But also, if you are in a relationship, make sure that's not centered either. Because again, if you are, and my dad did say this, you are single until you are married. And again, I used to think, well, if you got a boyfriend, girlfriend, at this age now, I realize now that I am single until I am married. Okay. There is no conversation about a significant other on the page, because that conversation is only reserved for the husband. Okay. But that's just me. You know what I'm saying? That's just me, just coming from years of different experiences that I've had. And yeah, I think I mentioned it, sometimes it sounds like it's, scorned type information, but I promise you it's not scorned. I'm not scorned, but if anything, I really want to see young ladies thrive, and, heartache is inevitable. Grief is inevitable. But if you want to navigate through those said things in life, if you really want to take like risk or try something new and, step away from fear and step out on something different, these are just kind of tips of things that are important to just be mindful of. Now, on the burnout aspect of it, I think that is also part of the how you move, right? You just need to decenter. Sometimes you need to decenter that job, and I'm not saying don't go to work, okay? I'm not saying go to your job and be rude. I'm not saying, don't get your work done. Not saying that at all. If you are very fortunate, especially in times like this, if you're very fortunate to be employed, be thankful that you're employed. Like every morning I wake up realizing that the job that I have has given me a laptop that I can use and they're not asking for it back. I'm so serious, because it is a blessing to have a job now more than ever. And I'm not saying, like I said, not do your work. I'm not saying any of that. But however, if you know like what you need to do on the job, like practice time management skills on the job, like get your work done, turn your phone on focus, do what you need to do, eliminate distractions, get your work done. And then once you've, fulfilled the day requirement of what you need in your shift, then yes, go home and enjoy life, because that's what you're there for. You're making a living just so you can have a life, right? Don't be so consumed about making a living that you just forget to have a life. And that was quoted from somebody else, not me. But I just think it's so important that, you have to prioritize what it is that you need for yourself. Healing is totally linear. It's not going to be, you're not going to hit this peak and then just go straight ahead. No, there's going to be moments where it's going to be peaks and valleys. Like I said, you're going to go through grief. You're going to potentially lose a loved one. You're going to potentially, and that loved one, it may not be in death. It just might be an end of friendship or end of an era. You could go through financial setbacks, and I say could because we're rebuking that over here. We are millionaires over here. And there might be a time where, you might have to come up with a large sum of money for whatever reason, a tax reason, a car repair, a house purchase, whatever the case may be. There's going to be times where, your faith in God is going to be tested, but the best thing that I could tell you to do is just, just keep the faith. Don't falter. Keep the faith. But when we're trying to address burnout, you have to ask yourself, like, what is it that I really need to be watered here? What do I need to grow here? Times are hard. It makes it difficult to really address burnout when you are doing excessive work out of the fear of security being endangered. And I know I did a video about this, about, feeling like you need to do all the things and do the most things and do the most things aggressively, because you fear your security. Anytime our security is in question, or anytime our security might be in violation, or anytime security or the bottom the bottom that might have fallen out, anytime that is questioned, you are going to do a lot. You are going to try to push, and the best thing that I can ever recommend for that is just make sure you are talking to God and making sure that job is not idolized. Okay. Like I said, be blessed that you have a job. Okay. Be blessed that God has put you in that right path for you to be able to get that said job, but don't idolize it. And really, that's what burnout is that we've idolized these things in such a way that we have to do for it all the time. And it's not giving us anything back. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it goes beyond just a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? It has to be fulfilling. You have to enjoy your job, because you're there, a third of the time of your day. You have to enjoy your job. And burnout can also come from just being overly committed in your families. Now you love your family. You want to see the best for them, but it comes to a point where you are going to have to take care of yourself. It comes to a point where you do have to ask yourself, well, in case of emergency, you got to ask yourself, will they come for me? You know what I'm saying? Will they look out for me? And I'm blessed that, my brothers will come and they will come hard. So I'm very thankful for that. But in transitions, again, brothers need to be their own men and do their own thing. And I want to respect that space. I really do. And I think it's a blessing that we all just love each other's company. I'm very blessed by that. And I miss them, because I miss one brother coming in my room, talking to me and laying all over the bed. The other brother showing me TikToks and memes and all that other stuff and trying to get food. I'm going to always miss those moments, but it makes me forever grateful that my brothers are just amazing individuals. And I know they'll do great things because God has taken care of the three of us in transition. So just wanted to hop on here, give a little bit of a big sisterly advice, a little update. Still doing the burnout series because I want all of us to thrive, but thrive in God's grace, thrive in his mercy. And just really just be focused on what it is that he's calling us to do. I'm not going to be preachy on here, but I firmly believe that, the reason why we've encountered burnout so much is because, we idolize these jobs and idolize these people at the jobs. I know that sometimes people tend to be afraid of their bosses. That boss is up here. Okay. That's who I serve. So, but I'm going to eat, I'm going to relax and maybe unpack a little bit more. I pray you guys have a good Wednesday evening.